Everybody, you are watching Hey Nikki episode 3. I am your host, Nikki Johnston, and this is a Beyond Eons Productions. I hope everyone is having a wonderful evening so far. Unfortunately, I do have some not so good news. I was going to have Michelle Bridges on tonight, and when I got off of work this morning, we had a message going back and forth, and around 9 o'clock, she had messaged us saying that she was really sick, that she had been vomiting and not feeling well. Luckily, her mom was there to be with her. And shortly after work, I talked to Dante, and he said that she's actually in the hospital. So please, everybody, send prayers out to Michelle Bridges. I hope she is feeling better. I haven't heard from her since this morning. When I have an update, I'll let you guys know on the status of her health. And I know this kind of sounds trivial, but what I would like for you guys to do to show support is to go to YouTube and watch her interview with Dante on Beyond Eons Productions. Again, such a beautiful person. She has been through so much physically, mentally, physiologically, and she has quite the story. So I would love for you to go watch so you can learn a little bit more about her, and hopefully she'll have a speedy recovery and I can get her back, or I can get her on the show to talk to her and see how she's doing. So instead, and I decided to come on a little bit later, so I apologize for that because I still wanted to get on here and talk to you guys, and I have Miss Bonnie back, and we're going to get her on, and we have a very, very different topic to talk about. So I think it's one that's going to resonate with many women out there, as well as many of those who are in the military. So let me bring her on, and we will get started. Hey Kim, how are you? Oh, there you are. What's
Hey,
up? How
how
are
you doing?
you? I'm
Good,
good.
good. How are you?
All right, I think there's a little bit of lag. Okay.
Is there?
All right, I think we're good. All right, so we're going to start off today's show with talking about loss. And we've all experienced loss of all different kinds, and some loved ones, meaning have passed away. Some have lost friends and to different situations. But the loss that I wanted to talk about with you is loss of yourself. I know from many, many, many stories that you've told me, and I learn more about you all the time, which is so amazing. But I know that over the years you have incurred, I don't know what the right term is, a lot of personal loss, that you've lost pieces of you throughout the years over and over and over again. And the astonishing thing is the way you've been able to rebuild yourself to the Bonnie who is before all of us. But I wanted to talk to you specifically about your military experience because I think it's going to resonate with many women, not necessarily in the military, but the type of loss that we're going to talk about is something that's very scary that I've never been through. I couldn't even imagine going through. And, you know, the two of us looking at our daughters, thinking of what it would be to watch that happen to them. So why don't you tell us kind of your experience getting into the military, and then we'll kind of fast forward into what happened, and you have an assessment coming up next week as well. So we'll kind of transgress through that whole period of your life to today.
So the military was I enlisted when I was 19. I was raised by the Navy, so I spent the first 17 years of my life as a dependent in the Navy. So I spent 2 years in the civilian world after graduating high school, and I was like, yeah, no, I can't do this. I didn't know how to interact with civilians. So I enlisted into the Air Force in '92, and I spent 2 years active
Mm.
and 6 years reserve for a total of 8 years.
Okay.
And that wasn't by, uh, I wanted to retire from the military. So that was my intent when I enlisted in the first place.
So you knew growing right into it that you were only going to do 2 active years, and then the goal was to come out as quickly as possible, or?
No, my goal was to go in for 20. I wanted to retire from the military. I wanted to go
Oh,
in,
so I'm
spend my
sorry. So you
20.
wanted to go through the
Yeah,
whole process and
yeah, because I
retire
would have
at the
been.
age of 20.
Yeah, because all I kept thinking of was, shit, I'm going to be retired by the time I'm 39 years old. That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Sign me up. Sign me up. So,
So you went in
but
for very like, one, you didn't have the experience of being around civilian people. So you were bred under a military family. So it just kind of made sense to go into it.
mhm.
Outside of that, and then not being comfortable in the civilian world, what what were any other benefits of you going into military? What did you see that would benefit you outside of those two things?
I had a place to live. I had clothes on my back, food, a paycheck, serve my
Hmm.
country. That's what I knew.
Okay. And so it,
Of course, there's plenty of other benefits, health care and all of that. And we were completely taken care of while in the military.
so did you see yourself as someone who did you actually want to serve? Did you feel like you had an honor to your country to serve, or was it more of what you knew that the military could do for you, meaning the structure, the discipline, and then all the awesome benefits that came with it? Did you see outside of that part of it?
No,
Okay.
no, it was what I knew. I
Okay.
knew military life, and being the 2 years that I spent as a civilian per se from 17 to 19, I was in like so much trouble.
Yeah.
When you have a case of beer and you're running to the cops because you're that fucked up, I'm
So you,
like,
so you,
I'm gonna end up in jail or dead.
so you
I
knew
better get
you had to get
my,
your shit together, pretty much.
I better get my shit together.
So okay.
So
So
I, I legit woke up one morning. I lived in an apartment with one of my girlfriends, and I opened up the yellow pages. I smoked a bowl. I had dreadlocks. I swore I was a hippie, and I called the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps to
okay.
find out which one had the least amount of boot camp. Coming from a
Okay.
bodybuilder, the least amount of boot camp, and that's what I chose.
Awesome.
I'm like, oh, Candyland, I'll take the Air Force.
So, so once you got in there, did you find that the Air Force was the least amount of work, or just the
Oh,
boot camp portion?
the boot camp portion was definitely the least amount of work. We
Okay.
started, at the time it was 6 weeks, and by the time you graduated boot camp, you had to run a mile. So we started with 1 lap, and then the next week was 2 laps, and then 3 laps, and then 4 laps, and 25 push-ups and 25 sit-ups. So you're talking, you know, cake. That's nothing, right? So the physical aspect of it wasn't a challenge at all.
Right.
The, it was after that, but um, yeah,
You know what's amazing to me is that, especially back then when most people were lean, we weren't crowded with all these processed foods that we have today. People were a lot leaner. And you're talking about a group of people that are supposed to be serving our country and protecting us, and literally only having to do a mile and 25 push-ups and 25 sit-ups.
yeah, yeah. That's Air Force. We weren't put
Right.
on the front line to go, take the doors down.
But
So,
I would imagine operating planes and being in simulators, you'd have to be physically fit for that, no?
oh, I'm sure they've got a whole different, agility test that they have to do, and
Okay.
performance requirements. us being the enlisted crew. I was chosen to go into the intelligence side of it, so the physical fitness aspect of it wasn't really necessary. It's more here and here that's needed. So
Okay.
the breakdown process of going from military brat to civilian for 2 years to being completely broken all the way down so they could build me up to what they needed me to be for what my job was.
Right.
So yeah, that was more of a mental thing than anything.
For those people that you met that did not come from a military background, do you feel like they had a different mindset going into it, or did it really vary?
Hmm. I didn't really give a shit what anybody else's reason was for coming in.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I was so, and I shouldn't say didn't give a shit. I just didn't know how to. With being raised in the Navy,
Mhm.
I went to 10 schools in 12 years. So the ability to establish relationships just didn't exist. What's the point? I'm leaving. So paying attention to other people and what they're doing, it just was never ingrained in me as
Okay.
far as getting to know anybody as a person, bringing them into my world or
Right.
trying
Right.
to even enter their world. So I didn't have civilian friends. They were anybody that I associated with, growing up, they were all brats too.
So did you find a common connection with them? Were you actually able to make a connection with any of them and have real friendships?
Oh yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, I've got. I met. I have a friend. She was my best friend when I lived in Jacksonville, Florida. Her dad was Navy as well, and that was back when I was in what the hell grade was I in? Maybe seventh grade. I
Okay.
met her, and we're still friends to this day.
Oh, awesome.
So
Awesome.
there's a couple of them that I met that we were able to reconnect thanks to social media, and
Mhm.
we're dipping in each other's lives. It's kind of cool.
Oh, Giovanni.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to me, given the nature of anyone I've experienced in the military, and I feel like those who are military brats, it feels like you guys are already at a disadvantage from going from, like, the military, you understand what it is, great, but as far as having an established home and established
Mm-hmm.
routine, like I feel like it just perpetuated the cycle of it. It just, you never were able to find any home ground or in yourself. Like, I mean, does that make you withdraw in? Does that make you become more a whole person, or does it make you more fragmented and spread out?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. Sometimes, I call myself the introverted
Yeah.
extrovert.
Yeah.
But once I'm comfortable, I can I can find something in common with literally anybody I talk to.
Okay.
Anybody, a complete stranger, and I've got something in common with them. And I've been so many places, seen so many things, and just it's that's kind of a cool trait, I think,
Yeah.
to have, is being able to just call it chameleon. I'm a chameleon.
Yeah.
So, right, that's, yeah.
Well, I don't come from that background at all, but I think everywhere I go, people think I'm from wherever I am. So,
Mhm.
as far as, being a mutt and being able to blend in, it also, helps as far as feeling comfortable with wherever you're at. Like, you're finding common place with someone around you, no matter what state, no matter what accent you have. Like, you have that ability to feel good around, in your surroundings.
Mhm.
So you spent 2 years in active duty. So I don't, again, you guys, I don't know a lot of this stuff. So I'm asking these questions because I genuinely do not know. So
I,
okay,
I
before we get into that,
signed.
What now?
Mhm. Sorry, Nikki, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Before we get into the darker things, what are
Yeah.
some of the top, I would say the top five things that were very valuable to you in the military that you came out with?
Um, well, I was able to, I've always been patriotic, so I was happy to be able to, regardless of what we're about to dive into, I still have my patriotism. I may not, um, like the commander in chief, but it's my job to respect the commander in chief. So, irregardless, I like the fact that, you know, my generation from the military or people from the military have respect. So it's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's none of this. People just don't communicate. They don't speak anymore, and they're so disrespectful. So I'm happy to have that. Um, I'm a veteran, and I'm happy to have that. I'm happy to have been able to carry the legacy on in my family. I
Yeah.
come from a very long line. We're talking Clara Barton down,
Yeah.
all military.
Okay.
I was the first, well, outside of Clara, first female in my family to
Oh,
serve. Um,
wow.
I now have lifetime benefits from the military.
You have
I
what?
get the VA home loan, huh?
You have what? I'm sorry, you cut out.
Oh, lifetime. I have lifetime benefits from the military.
Okay.
So I'm taken care of, if anything, all my medical and stuff like that is taken care
Okay.
of. Yeah, and that's about, I guess
Yeah.
that's about it.
Okay. So
From,
where, okay, so like we said, you have your assessment next week.
Mhm.
Um, and
Yeah.
does that mean like everything that has happened, does that come up and you get reviewed? Because you're right now you were medically discharged and
No, no. I was honored. I'm
honorable.
honorably
Okay.
discharged. Yeah, but I have a disability rating. So
Okay.
they due to the things that happened to me when I was enlisted,
Okay.
um, they they can do a disability rating, and
Okay.
then you get compensation for that. So my my assessment next week is going over everything again for the fourth time,
Oh,
as if it's the first time, so that they can validate or update my disability rating
okay.
for compensation. So it never fucking goes away.
Yeah. So you're always reminded, it's always there, it's always an imprint. No, whether you want it or not, it's coming back up. Because it, you guys sustain a lot of things, whether it's physical, mental. Oh, good night.
Good night.
Whether it's physical, mental, or emotional. I totally lost my train of thought. Giovanni, it'll maybe lose my train of thought.
He's got that way
Yeah,
about him.
yeah. um, well, it's something that needs to be in place because the few people that I know who are in the military who have sustained PTSD, I feel like didn't didn't receive the care that they needed post mission or post, after becoming veterans, or they just didn't have the wherewithal to be able to communicate to get the help that they needed. So
Yeah.
having this in place, so money is a driver, right? Getting help is a driver in that sense. So, those who are in the military, if there's ever a reason to get this kind of help, financially and with, insurance and different things like that, or helping with your home, it's
Mhm.
a good way for someone to get in to try to get some help that's above and beyond that. So, getting assessed mentally, getting assessed physically. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you can't do it because of something bad that happened to you, start there. Start with the benefits that you'll receive, and then maybe it would open you up to getting the help, the real help that you need.
Well, there's a huge like disconnect, because when you're discharged, it's not like they go through your records and say, hey, by the way, we see you were raped multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and get you into the system so you can have the benefits and receive the help that you need.
Right.
I didn't know until 2021.
Wow.
I had my 21 years post discharge. And it was because my VA doc, her nurse, said, did you experience MST? And I said, what the fuck is MST? She said,
Yeah.
military sexual trauma. I said, are you asking if I was raped in the military? Who isn't?
Yeah.
So huge. What could it have done for me in those 21 years? What I,
Yeah.
it
Where would you
blows me.
be?
Where would I be? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It makes me speechless. It blows my mind. Like, I signed the dotted line. I'm willing to die for my country. Willing to, that's what I
But you're
did.
not willing
You
to
know,
help
that's what I
me to
signed up for.
die. Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Okay.
can't even educate me as I'm leaving that, hey, this is, oh my gosh, this is what's going on with you. Let's make sure you're taken care of. No, they
Yeah.
just let you
Yeah.
flail around.
So it's basically like a fuck you, you're done. So you don't exist anymore. Sign your papers and be gone.
Yeah, and I don't even know how, you know, I just one day said, yeah, I'm a veteran. I should be able to get some type of benefits, right?
Right.
So I filled out something and I ended up qualifying for medical benefits, and then found out through my medical benefits that, I could file for compensation and get the help that I need, but I'm getting the compensation, but I'm not getting the freaking help that I need,
Right.
because there's too many of us. There's so many of us screaming for help, and they just don't have. They have community care, but they deny me community care. We have one person to work with,
Yeah.
one therapist, and she's an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not talking to her. I tried her.
Right.
You and I've had this conversation.
Yeah.
No, no, it's not working. So,
So are there other programs out there, like not directly associated with the military, or nonprofit organizations, or any type of community there that can help vets?
I don't know. I mean, I know there's places you can outreach to, but why make it so difficult?
Right.
Why? What? Why make it so difficult? I just don't understand. So I don't know. I don't have that answer. I don't know. It's frustrating. There's lots of people who are starting like these volunteer organizations trying to get vets help.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that's what they strive to do every single day. But you know,
Yeah, you're up against a very, very,
there's so many
very large.
of us.
Yeah.
So many of us, the men, the women. And the same thing that happened to me happens to the men.
Right. So go back. Let's go back to that period of time. Were you in active duty at the time, and within the 2 years of your active duty?
Yeah.
So, as disgusting as it sounds, the way you're making it seem, it's almost like a rite of passage, which blows my mind. So,
Oh,
give us the environment, how it happens, where it happens. Is it like paint the picture for us?
So you're living in barracks. Most of us live in the barracks. It's all, you know, you're enlisted is kept apart from the officers. And it could be Air Force, Army. You could have your temporary duty assignment people there. Lots of drinking, lots of partying going on. You know, we're all young. And there were three different incidents with me in my 2 years of service.
Okay.
And you're, sorry, baby girl. The first time, you know, it was going to a Halloween party, and the enlisted guy I was going with made it very clear. I'm like, we're just going as friends. There's no hookup here. Like, you know, you're a cool dude. And
Right.
Next thing I know, I wake up and I'm completely naked. And he did admit to taking advantage of me.
Wow.
And I reported it. They took him away for 2 weeks, just took him out of the box. That's where we worked together. And 2 weeks later, they swept it under the rug, called me a whore, and put him right back in the desk.
Wow.
The next one, there was a bunch of us in the barracks, and I'll remember this. Sorry if you're sensitive, oh well, but I was on my period. I had a tampon in. Woke up naked, some fucking guy. And all I could say was, did you at least take my tampon out?
Wow.
And he didn't. And then the next one was, we were all in Acuna because we would drive down to Corpus Christi. There was a whole bunch of us. Woke up in a hotel room. I could not move. I couldn't talk. The girl next to me was getting raped by 2 guys, and I was getting raped by 2 guys. Military.
So,
And I decided that enough was enough. And asked how I could get out. And me being in Intel during Clinton's era and all the Intel bases were being shut down, they stopped letting us out. But I was able to, they said, if you can get accepted to a university and show us your acceptance letter, we'll let you out with an honorable discharge. So I applied to the University of Texas. I got accepted. I took that into my commander and began discharge. I needed to get out of that box because they kept me working with this guy who raped me. And they moved me out of Intel and started to discharge me. I asked to be moved prior to requesting to be discharged. I asked to be moved. I asked to get assigned somewhere else, stationed somewhere else. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it.
So they just sweep it under the rug. They're fully acknowledging that it happened. They don't give a shit, and they just say, suck it up.
Nope. I had to turn in all my fucking clothes. It was the most humiliating experience. Humiliating.
Turn in your military clothes? What do you mean?
No, my civilian clothes that I had, because they wanted to test all of my clothes.
So were you drugged, or were you guys all just drunk?
I honestly believe I was drugged because I don't remember a thing. I don't remember a thing. And when you're waking up and you can't feel anything and you can't talk, I don't think that's normal. I don't wake up like that now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
I mean, I
Mike,
wake
what
up
you doing
naked
over
and
there?
pretty sure my husband had a good time, but I could feel things, I could talk.
Right. Oh my God. So So how many women were in your either barrack or in your unit?
Um, I was actually the only female on my flight.
Okay.
In the barracks, it's all mixed, so
Okay.
I have no clue. No clue. But I was the only female on my flight.
So after the first time it happened, were you just so in shock? I mean, because you went from 0 to 100. The next day you're like, so did he admitted that he raped you.
Yeah, he admitted it. He admitted it to me.
So
I don't know what he
what
said
were you
in
thinking at that
investigation.
time? What was going through your head at the time that I mean you were still so young. Like what
Yeah, I was 19. I was 19 years old. I didn't
so
sign
what
up for that shit.
right, what was your thought process after that happened? Like
Uh,
were you
I,
scared? You just get
I,
angry?
I was. I'm pretty sure I just started drinking a lot. I didn't know what to do. There was nothing I could do. I had
Right.
nobody. Nobody. You know, there's no family. Your family is
Right.
wherever it is you left them. As far as friends go, they're really, you have your flight, and being the only female, like it's not an easy. Who do you hang out with?
Yeah. You literally have no one to talk to, no one to process this with.
Right.
And so you hid behind a bottle and then that continued through the second time as well. So were you just in just perpetual state of drunkenness for like since that happened for the rest of your time?
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, what else was I? I was like, well, fuck it. Guess this is my life now. And yeah, that was a tough. That was a tough couple years.
So did you I mean because of your personality I mean you want to tough things out. Was that kind of the case after the first time? You're like, I enlisted. This is what I decided to do. I want to get away from this fucker, and I can't. But I'm sticking this out because this is what I
Yeah,
signed up for.
I wanted to stay in. I wanted
Yeah.
to do my 20 years. It was my, that was my focus. That was my goal. Like, that's what I knew. And um, yeah, so it was, all right, let's just push through. I mean, being raised a military brat, you're not a delicate child.
Yeah.
I tell everybody I was raised by pirates because that's what it felt
Yeah.
like. It was
Yeah.
fun. It was a wild time.
So
But hmm,
so what was it about that third time? Because you knew that was your life. You knew that was what happens. So what was it about that third time where you just that was it? That was the last straw.
I couldn't even help the girl next to me.
Yeah.
That scared that scared me.
Wow.
I couldn't help her. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't, and she couldn't move, and it was just that's still like, you know, burned into my brain, that whole vision, that whole episode. So yeah, that was the that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and I was like, they're not gonna fucking do anything. So why
Right.
even report it? You just
Right.
stop. You just stop. So I knew what I needed to do, and that's what I did. I went and applied to the university and took my acceptance papers in, and they began discharge. And um, that was 2 years into active duty. Like two
Yeah.
years. That's it.
You're like
That's not
you
a
wanted to
long
make it
time.
yeah, you wanted to
Hmm?
make it your life
Yeah.
and it got cut short.
Yeah. So then because I enlisted for 4, they said, we'll give you honorable discharge, but you got to do 6 years reserves. Fine. As long as I'm away from
Yeah.
this. So
So looking back
they,
now,
mhm,
and we've talked about, like, we started the conversation last time about your hair
mhm,
and talking about almost kind of like self-confidence, self-worth. Now
yeah.
looking back at it now, you define that last straw by something happening to someone else, not yourself.
Mhm.
So what, I don't know how to ask this, but what was it inside of you, like looking back now, was the self-worth of yourself low, or was it because you always have a desire to help someone that you couldn't help this woman next to you that that you drew the line? Like, or was it a little bit of both?
It was it has to be both because I never had much of a self esteem or self
Yeah.
worth growing up. Period. Like
Okay.
I just didn't. And and you know me, I love to help people. I
Yeah.
was born to be a public servant. Like that's just what I do.
Yeah.
Going into the military, fire and rescue, being in healthcare, now working in corrective chiropractic care and nutrition and personal training. Like it's just, that's what I was bred to do, born to do is help people. So not being able to help somebody, it doesn't resonate well,
Yeah. It
well
didn't
with
sit
me.
well with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm-mm.
what, after that you went, did you actually end up going to school? You got the acceptance letter. How long did you go? Yeah. You're like, fuck you, I'm out.
Fuck you,
Here's my
I'm
letter.
out. I am out. And everything went downhill quickly after that because I was just, I was lost. I was flailing around in the flailing around in the universe.
Wow. How do you feel like those three incidences affected you after you left? Up until today. How has it morphed you into, because you went through a hell of a, you guys, there's so much more to break down here that we're not even going to touch. So I really want to focus on these three incidences. But there's so much more involved. So it's hard to really pull it all apart. But what I want to get you guys to understand is where Bonnie is at now and how she was then and overcoming all of these challenges. So that's why I wanted to kind of focus on this as one specific challenge. And our lives are all intertwined. I understand that. So but we don't have a week to talk right now.
Oh,
So,
we
we're
need a
taking,
year.
right, right, exactly. So the best you can separate these things out. How did these three incidences come up across the following years in your life? Is it just a memory? Would it come out as like a PTSD situation where you'd have to hide for a couple of days? Like how has that affected you since?
So it it comes up, and honestly, there it sucks, but there isn't a single day that goes by that it doesn't of some form or capacity cross my
Yeah.
mind. And that is all part of complex PTSD. And in speaking with multiple therapists and psychologists, psychiatrists, they've seen PTSD. They've seen us soldiers, like those who've gone to war 5 times, who have no issues at all.
Yeah.
And then there's those of us who stayed CONUS, who 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 served during war, who have horrible PTSD. And incidences treat and hit everybody differently, and their body responds, the way that it responds. But
Right.
it, I don't know. I like to pull the positive out of it,
Yeah.
um, and I will say and share that with those incidences, what I ended up doing was becoming a volunteer rape
Oh,
advocate.
okay.
Um, while I was in Texas. So
Okay.
I didn't know, I couldn't help me, but I knew I could help others
Yeah.
because I'd been through it numerous times. And so So that's how what I did. That's what I chose to do with those three incidences. I think that was probably the biggest,
Yeah.
most positive thing I could have done with such an awful, awful
Do you
experience.
think that helped you start your journey of healing, or put you somewhat at ease or a little bit at peace with what happened by helping others get through the same thing?
Yeah, that's what also helps me. I mean, it's off track, but with domestic violence,
Yeah.
because I, I'm not afraid to tell my story. I'm not
Right.
afraid to tell any of my stories. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bonnie is very complex.
Yeah. Well,
There's a lot to this puzzle
well, I mean,
here.
and that's
But
what's so beautiful about who you are as a person today, and why you're still here.
mhm.
And you know that your purpose has always been outside of yourself, and that's essentially allowed you to survive.
Mhm.
I think now, or at least I would say, at least since starting to compete, this health journey you've been on, you finally decided to take care of yourself.
Yeah,
And then
finally.
merging the two worlds of helping everyone else, and then you're helping yourself in that. I mean, it catapults you to be able to help people even more, which is super, super cool. But I think something important to ask is, how was your next sexual experience after that? Were you still in a drunken state? Did you continue that lifestyle, or were you actually able to have any type of healthy relationships after that? Like, so basically
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Healthy relationship. I had no clue. I had no clue what that was. Didn't
Yeah.
give two shits. Didn't care. I, nobody cared about me.
Yeah.
So I didn't care about me. And, um, you know, I, I, I did a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately was attracted to narcissistic type A manipulative individuals and
Assholes.
assholes. Yeah. Yeah. They don't deserve to share my air, that's for sure.
Yeah. Right.
um, and, you know, so it wasn't until, 2018 when we started our journey
Yeah.
where I discovered I deserve to love myself.
Right.
Myself deserves my
Mhm.
love, and that unconditional, and I'm still working on
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm much better.
Well, the amazing thing is that it allowed you to accelerate your healing journey and to know yourself better, to actually be able to live with yourself for who you are,
Mhm.
and opened you up to meeting your soulmate, which is the coolest thing. And
Right.
I wonder though, I wonder if the process would have changed at all if you did have help earlier. Like,
I think it would have changed.
yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah, I wouldn't be where I am right now, so I wouldn't change a step.
yeah,
I knowing what I know now, I would still go through it all to get to where I am at
yeah.
right now in this very moment.
I
So I
I
don't want
agree for
any.
myself too. I always, Ori and I will talk about, well, what would have happened if X, Y, Z, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't care.
Nope.
I don't like to think hypothetically like that, because if I didn't go through everything else beforehand, we wouldn't be where we're at today.
Yeah.
And even as any kind of exercise, or I don't like to do that. And it's not because I don't like to think about my past. It's just because it happened as it was supposed to happen.
Hmm.
However, on the flip side of that, I wonder though, you shouldn't hear that and say, well, then I won't get help. I think that's the thing. Like, our stories, we are where we are based on everything that has happened. But if something like this has happened to you, it is important to reach out for support because you are on your own journey, but man, does it help to have people alongside of you to talk to, who understand you, and to realize that you're not alone. And I think that is the key, is to know that you're not alone through the journey, no matter how long it takes you to get there. And you know, for me, I ignored the help because I was like, oh, I've got this. I would hide, meaning I would put a smile on my face. No one would ever know what I was going through. But at the same time, I wouldn't say, look, I need help, or this is really, I put on that face of everything's okay because I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm strong enough
That's
to handle it.
all right. We're badass bitches.
Man.
Wrong.
Right, yeah. And like I said, I've never been through something like that you've been through. And many of the things that you've been through, I've never been through. And um, I think our experiences are relative, you know what I mean? It's relative to either our upbringing or what we've dealt with. So it doesn't matter how big or small, it's relative to your individual person. And that makes it as bad as it is. So what advice would you give men or women? I guess we can say in particular to the military, but I think anyone who's been in that situation, what
Mhm.
advice would you give them?
Um, I don't know. It's, you know, if they're sexually assaulted, you got to report it, and don't don't back down from it.
Mm,
Don't be afraid. Um, you know, don't be afraid of that monster that did that to you. Fight back. Don't wait as long as I did.
yeah,
Like, I can still go back and they have now opened up where you can report the person, and you can now, even this many years later, press charges and
yeah,
have it taken care of. I don't need to do that, but um, report it. Don't back down. You didn't do anything wrong. It had
yeah,
nothing to do with you or what you're wearing or what you're doing. It had everything to do with the monster inside of them.
yeah,
And don't let them get away with it. Just fight for
yeah.
yourself.
And even if you
That's the
can't,
me.
yeah, yeah, and maybe if you can't report, like if you can't take that initial step, is just I think to tell somebody,
Yeah,
just get it
because they
off
can
of
report
your
it.
chest.
Yeah, find somebody you trust or not. Just tell. Yeah, don't bottle it up.
Yeah,
Talk about it. Somebody else might be in the same situation, and your experience might catapult them to get help. Even if you don't want to get help, they might want to get help, and now they know how to do it.
right.
Don't be quiet.
Well, right. And what's so amazing is that even from the first episode we did, I already had someone communicate with me that they needed help, and that's just, it's amazing. Like, that's why I want to get people on this show, and I don't care where you're from. I don't care what space you're in. I don't care if you have clout in the YouTube world. Like, that's not what it's about. It's about sharing stories and reaching out to people and understanding that you're not alone, and that you have um, people who understand your situation. And not every situation is the same, but that you can communicate with someone and say, okay, I think it's time. And getting these messages out is so, so important. And to see that you are still recovering, you still are in the process of dealing with these things, but man, are you in a much better place.
Oh yeah.
I mean, leagues
It's
and
amazing.
leagues away. Like now we're getting pissed off over 40-degree weather down in Fort Myers.
It's so cold. Oh my God.
But that's the point. Could you imagine, like, one day, 30 some years ago, you're wondering if you can close your eyes to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And now you sleep like the dead and you're waking up and frustrated over the weather. And I think that's important to know. It's not that you don't think about these things. It's not that um, you're all high and mighty now. You know what I mean? It's like that's where you want to be. Like, it's not like you're complaining as in like, oh my God, like I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like what you've moved, all the work that you've done to this point, and that's where you're at. And I think that's so amazing that you've overcome so many things. And yeah, we'll see what happens next week with your assessment. I know you'll tell me all about it and the end result. And so right now you're going for 100% disability, right? Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, I am.
So whoever's listening to this, if you guys have been in the military, if you're now a veteran and you are seeking help, contact Bonnie, contact me, who, either of us, we can point you in the right direction to, receive the benefits that you deserve. And again, if the monetary part of this is going to allow you to get that initial help, I feel that is a step. I feel that's a step in the right direction because I think what I've seen you go through has come with more things: blood work, speaking to a counselor, revisiting your story. You have to bring these things back up so that they understand what you're going through to get that disability.
Yeah.
So it's going to slowly transgress someone into having to really speak about what they went through and then hopefully get some help at the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, like that's just part one of many, 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 many more. And I definitely want to bring you back on because not only that, we have to talk about your hair journey, but
Yeah, it's growing. Look at
it's
that.
growing. It's growing. It looks so cute. I love it. You're not at the awkward hair growth stage yet.
I'm
So, well,
close.
yeah.
Ch-ch-ch-chia. We're getting there.
Oh my God. I used to be called that all the time. Okay. Talk about PTSD.
You see these curls?
Oh
Like,
my God. Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, we will. I want to get you back on in a few weeks, or I don't know. I like this. I like having these conversations because it's
yeah.
just a continuation of um, your life and where you're at, and we have so many more stories to get us up to speed to where you're at now. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And I'm
we
hoping that
definitely
these reach people, and even if it's just one person that
yeah
reaches out, that we're able to guide or help, or they know now they're not freaking
yeah
alone. Like, that's huge. That's
that's huge.
huge to me. I know that's
Yep.
huge to you too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so this is episode 3,
Good
and
job.
episode 2, thank you. Episode 2 comes out tomorrow on YouTube, and I'll get this one over to Jakeem, and he will get it out next week at some point. To be honest, it's a lot easier to watch these on YouTube because you can actually like stop wherever you leave off. It holds your spot, and then you can go back and
Oh,
listen.
okay.
But those of you guys who were on the live with us today, thank you so much for joining. And if you have any questions or if there are any ladies out there who would like to be on the show, I'd love to talk with you to share your story, to get it out. This is the platform to do it. So, all right, y'all. Have a good night. I love you.
Love
Have
you.
a good weekend, you all. All right.
Bye.
Good night.